Tension fills the air as a battle brews over who controls the streets of Los Angeles. On one side, a governor stands firm, rallying his people to protect their city's freedom. On the other, a president pushes back, claiming he has the right to step in with force. Protests roar outside City Hall, legal papers fly, and a courtroom showdown looms large. This isn't just a fight about power, it's a clash that could change how we see our country. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? Which states? Which city? We love to know and connect with our viewers. Outside City Hall, the scene is chaotic. Hundreds of people, about 500 strong, march with signs and chants, their voices rising against the wind. Tear gas clouds drift through the air, stinging eyes and throats, while news helicopters hover overhead, their blades chopping the silence. The crowd isn't just angry, they're determined, pushing for their city to stay in their hands. Inside, Gavin Newsom, the governor, sits with Mayor Karen Bass in a dimly lit office. Papers are spread across the table, legal documents stacked high, and a clock ticks loudly on the wall. The room feels heavy, like the weight of the moment is pressing down on them. Newsom leans forward, his voice steady but firm. He tells Bass they need to fight this, that the city's autonomy is on the line. Bass nods, her eyes scanning the papers, pointing out clauses that might help their case. They're a team here, working late, fueled by coffee, and a shared belief that they can hold their ground. Meanwhile, across the country, Donald Trump prepares to address the nation. He's in the Oval Office, surrounded by advisors, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. A large map of California hangs on the wall, marked with red lines and notes. Trump paces, his voice loud, insisting he has the authority to send in troops. Hegseth stands nearby, nodding, holding a folder with plans for the National Guard. The room buzzes with energy, phones ringing, aides rushing in and out. Trump adjusts his tie, ready to tell the world he's stepping in to restore order, his tone confident, almost daring anyone to challenge him. The trouble started when rumors spread about National Guard troops moving into Los Angeles. Newsom heard it first from local leaders, who said federal forces were on their way without his say-so. He called it a shock, a move that broke the usual rules. Governors like him are supposed to control their state's guard, calling them in when needed, not having them taken over by Washington. He grabbed his phone, dialing Bass, telling her they needed to act fast. Bass agreed, saying the city's police were handling things, that there was no need for outside help. Together they decided to rally the community, to show the people of Los Angeles that their voices mattered. Out on the streets, the protesters grew louder. Men and women of all ages joined in, some carrying flags, others holding signs that read, "Hands off our city." A young man with a megaphone shouted about freedom, his voice cracking with passion. An older woman next to him waved a banner, her face set with determination. The crowd swelled, reaching 500, their footsteps echoing on the pavement. Police stood at the edges, some in riot gear, others trying to keep the peace. Tear gas canisters popped, sending white clouds rolling through the air. Helicopters circled above, their lights cutting through the smoke, cameras rolling to capture every moment. Back in the office, Newsom and Bass pored over the legal papers. They found a section in the law that said the president can't just take over the guard without a governor's okay, unless there's a big rebellion or invasion. Newsom tapped the page, saying this was their chance to fight back. Bass suggested they get lawyers involved, maybe even take it to court. They called in a trusted advisor, a quiet man named James, who worked as their legal counsel. James arrived with a briefcase, his glasses slipping down his nose as he explained the case. He said they could argue that the situation in Los Angeles didn't meet the law's requirements, that it was just protests, not a rebellion. Newsom listened, his jaw tight, knowing this could be a long battle. Across the miles, Trump was gearing up. He sat at his desk, Hegseth by his side, going over a speech. The map on the wall showed Los Angeles marked with a red circle, a target for his plan. Trump spoke about chaos in the streets, saying the city needed his help. Hegseth added details, explaining how 2,000 guard troops were ready to move in, trained to protect federal buildings and support immigration officers. Trump nodded, liking the sound of it, telling Hegseth to make sure the troops had everything they needed. Aides brought in water bottles and snacks, setting them on a side table, as the room filled with the hum of preparation. The next move came when Newsom held a meeting with local leaders. He stood in a conference room, its windows overlooking the protesting crowd below. Police chiefs, community organizers, and city council members filled the seats. Newsom spoke clearly, saying they wouldn't let the federal government take over. A police chief raised a hand, noting his officers were stretched thin but managing. A community leader, a woman named Maria, stood up, her voice strong, saying the people wanted to protect their homes. Newsom thanked them, promising to stand with them, his eyes scanning the room for support. They agreed to keep the protests peaceful, to show the world Los Angeles could handle its own affairs. Trump, meanwhile, went live on television. The Oval Office glowed under bright lights, the map behind him a bold backdrop. He looked into the camera, his voice booming, saying the protests were out of control. He claimed federal law gave him the right to send in the guard, that he was saving the city from itself. Hegseth stood off to the side, nodding as Trump spoke, his uniform crisp and serious. The speech ended with a promise to keep the nation safe, leaving viewers to wonder what would happen next. Phones lit up across the country, people texting and calling, some cheering, others furious. Back in Los Angeles, the protests grew tense. The 500 demonstrators marched closer to City Hall, their chants mixing with the sound of sirens. Tear gas lingered in the air, making eyes water, while helicopters buzzed overhead, their spotlights sweeping the crowd. A young protester, a college student named Alex, led a chant, his voice carrying over the noise. An older man beside him held a sign, his hands trembling but firm. Police formed lines, shields up, trying to hold the crowd back. Newsom watched from a window, his face set, knowing this was just the beginning. In the office, Bass and James worked late. They drafted a lawsuit, arguing that Trump's move broke the law and threatened the state's rights. Bass read aloud, her voice steady, while James scribbled notes, suggesting they ask a judge to stop the troops. Newsom paced, his mind racing, knowing this could escalate fast. He called a press conference, stepping outside to face the cameras. The crowd hushed as he spoke, saying they were suing to protect their city, his words clear and strong. Reporters shouted questions, microphones thrust forward, but he held his ground, promising more to come. Trump responded with another address. He stood in the Oval Office again, Hegseth beside him, the map still on the wall. He called Newsom's lawsuit a mistake, saying he had the power to act. Hegseth added that the Guard was already moving, 300 troops on the ground, protecting federal sites. Trump's tone was firm, almost challenging, as he said the law was on his side. The broadcast ended with him looking straight at the camera, leaving a sense of defiance hanging in the air. In Los Angeles, the legal fight began. Newsom and Bass filed their case in a federal court, asking a judge to block the troop deployment. James led the effort, his briefcase packed with evidence, arguing that the situation didn't justify federal control. The courtroom filled with lawyers, reporters, and curious onlookers. Newsom sat at the front, his hands clasped, while Bass whispered to him, pointing out the judge's reactions. The judge listened, his face unreadable, as both sides presented their arguments. Outside, the protests continued, the 500 voices rising, tear gas still in the air. Trump didn't back down. He ordered more troops, another 2,000, to join the 300 already there. Hegseth coordinated the move, calling bases to mobilize the Guard. The Oval Office buzzed again, aides rushing with updates, the map now dotted with more red marks. Trump spoke to the press, saying Los Angeles needed him, that Newsom couldn't handle it. His words carried a mix of confidence and urgency, painting a picture of a city on the edge. Newsom countered with a public statement. He stood outside City Hall, the crowd behind him, their signs waving. He called the new deployment reckless, saying it put the city at risk. Bass stood beside him, her voice joining his, urging peace among the protesters. Maria, the community leader, spoke too, her words echoing through the microphones, thanking Newsom for fighting. The scene was tense, the air thick with emotion, as helicopters circled above. The courtroom drama unfolded. The judge heard from both sides, Newsom's lawyers arguing state rights, Trump's team claiming federal authority. James presented documents, his voice calm but firm, while Hegseth's representatives pushed back, citing law and order. The gallery watched, some nodding, others shaking their heads. The judge took notes, his pen scratching the paper, leaving everyone waiting for a ruling. Outside, the protests shifted. The 500 grew to 600, new faces joining, their chants louder. Alex led a group toward a federal building, his megaphone cutting through the noise. Police tightened their lines, shields clashing, tear gas popping again. Newsom watched from a distance, his heart heavy, knowing the stakes were rising. Trump held another meeting. The Oval Office was crowded, Hegseth briefing him on the troop movements. The map showed Los Angeles as a hotspot, red lines spreading. Trump decided to send in Marines, 700 of them, to back up the guard. He spoke with confidence, saying it was the right call, while Hegseth nodded, his folder full of plans. The room felt charged, the decision hanging in the balance. Newsom responded quickly. He met with Bass and James, the office dimmer now, the clock ticking louder. They filed an emergency motion, asking the court to stop the Marines too. James worked through the night, his glasses fogging with exhaustion, while Bass called local leaders for support. Newsom stood by the window, watching the city, his mind on the fight ahead. The court hearing grew intense. The judge listened as Newsom's team argued the Marine deployment was illegal, their voices steady. Trump's lawyers fought back, saying it was necessary, their tone sharp. The gallery leaned forward, the air thick with tension. The judge paused, his face stern, promising a decision soon. On the streets, the protests raged. The 600 marched, their signs high, tear gas clouds rolling. Alex shouted for peace, his voice hoarse, while the older man beside him waved his banner. Police pushed back, their shields up, helicopters buzzing. The city felt like a battleground, every move watched. Trump addressed the nation again. The Oval Office was bright, the map a constant presence. He defended the Marines, saying they'd prevent chaos, his voice strong. Hegseth stood ready, his uniform a symbol of authority. The broadcast ended with Trump's challenge, leaving viewers split. Newsom held a rally. He stood before the 600, his voice carrying hope. Bass joined him, her words firm, while Maria spoke of community strength. The crowd cheered, their signs waving, tear gas a faint haze. Newsom promised to keep fighting, his eyes on the future. The judge's ruling came. He ordered a pause, stopping the troop increase, but left the 300 guard members in place. The courtroom erupted, some clapping, others silent. Newsom and Bass exchanged looks, relief mixed with caution, while Trump's team planned their next step. The story doesn't end here. The battle for Los Angeles hangs in the balance, with both sides holding firm. Newsom and his team push for state control, while Trump and his advisors stand by federal power. The protests continue, the court waits, and the city watches. What do you think about this moment? Did one side make the right call, or is there more to see? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss our next episode.